The void was endless. Stars glittered like scattered jewels, cold and silent. Yet among the vast tapestry of lights, one spark burned differently. Humanity. Captain Alara Vance gazed at the silver gates of Orlon Prime, the core station of the Galaxy Council. The city floated in orbit around a dying star, towers spiraling upward like frozen lightning. Behind her, the human envoy ship ISS Vanguard waited silently. "We're stepping into the Hall of Gods," said Commander Jonas Hale, his voice steady but low. "They expect obedience." Alara's lips curved faintly. "Then let's show them something they haven't seen." The council chamber stretched farther than imagination. Thousands of beings, some crystalline, some of flowing gas, some unrecognizable to human senses, floated in the tiers above. The High Chancellor Severin Tal stood at the center, radiant and imposing. "Species 3127, his voice rang, echoing like chimes in a cathedral of light. "Welcome to the Council of Light. You stand among civilizations that have endured millennia. We offer guidance, protection, and the accords of conduct which will ensure your place among the stars." The accords were clear. Humanity was to surrender autonomy over energy development, interstellar travel, and artificial intelligence research. "For your safety," Severin Tal said, "and for their control." Ilara's fingers tightened around the railing. She had read the histories, the silent annexations disguised as peace treaties. Many species had burned bright and then vanished into servitude. Humanity would not bow. "We accept your accords," she said, voice calm yet carrying the weight of determination, "on one condition: that you recognize humanity's right to question everything." The chamber quieted. Severin Tal tilted his crystalline head. "Questioning is dangerous, human." "So is living," Ilara replied. For a brief heartbeat, the stars themselves seemed to pause. Over the following decades, humanity appeared compliant. The Council monitored every breakthrough, audited every mission, and restricted all innovation that might exceed their control. Earth and its colonies became careful, patient. And yet, beneath the calm, a quiet defiance grew. Dr. Ren Calder, stationed on Luna, whispered to his team, "They fear us. That's why they try to cage us." "Fear us? We're ants among giants," a young engineer replied. Ren smiled. "Ants can move mountains if they work together." Hidden labs, secret colonies, and encrypted communications carried the whispers of rebellion. Humanity learned the rules, yet found the cracks. They began bending physics, experimenting in ways the Council could not yet predict. They didn't strike openly. They prepared. Ilara, now older and seasoned by decades of diplomacy, walked among these secret projects, a quiet smile playing on her lips. "Let them think we are broken," she said. "They'll never see what we can become." The Council, confident in its centuries of rule, did not notice the spark. Humanity learned, adapted, and grew, silently. The chains of oversight became the chains of inspiration. The more the Council controlled, the stronger the humans' ingenuity became. And somewhere deep in the void, the stars waited, watching the spark grow. They knew, as humans did not yet fully know, that sparks could become fire. The Council's grip tightened. Humanity's autonomy was carefully limited, but the restrictions only revealed the depth of their creativity. Every human scientist, engineer, and dreamer felt the invisible chains pressing down. Yet the spirit of defiance, like molten steel, flowed quietly beneath the surface. Dr. Ren Calder hunched over his console on Luna Station, examining streams of data. The monitors glowed with the forbidden equations he and his team had discovered. Energy patterns once thought impossible now pulsed like lifeblood across the screen. "They're watching us," said his assistant, Leora Dane, her voice almost a whisper. Ren nodded. "They fear us. That's why they try to restrain us. Fear has a rhythm, Leora, and fear can be predicted, but ingenuity cannot." Across the solar system, colonies on Mars, Titan, and Europa hummed with secret activity. Every new settlement, every research station, became a node in a network the Council could not detect. Humanity moved like a shadow in the light, obeying outwardly while secretly advancing, faster than any alien logic could anticipate. The Council dispatched inspectors and auditors, massive ships of polished chrome and light, but they found nothing more than Standard operations. Harmless enough to satisfy oversight. The humans had learned the art of compliance without surrendering their ingenuity. On the surface of Luna, Ren met with Ilara Vance. Her eyes were the same fierce blue they had been decades earlier, but lined now with wisdom. "They want obedience," she said, voice low but certain. "But obedience alone cannot hold us. They underestimate curiosity, and humans have an infinite supply." Ren smiled. "Exactly. The moment they think they've chained us, that's when we'll be free." The first human ships capable of surpassing Council-imposed limits were built quietly in hidden orbital yards. They did not carry weapons. They did not carry declarations of war. They carried minds unbound, intelligence and thought made manifest in steel and energy. They called it Project Prometheus. Ilara oversaw the project with care. Each ship was designed to adapt, to learn, to survive. The Council had restricted faster-than-light travel, yet humans had discovered a method that did not break laws, but bent them just enough. They had turned restrictions into possibilities. The first successful jump was small, almost invisible. A single research vessel vanished from Luna's orbit and reappeared on Titan. It was a demonstration of capability, but more importantly of defiance. Meanwhile, on Earth, the public believed humanity's progress was slow, careful, and compliant. Politicians praised the Council's oversight. Citizens accepted restrictions as safety measures. Yet beneath the illusion, the human mind was alight with purpose. Ilara convened her closest allies. "We are not in rebellion yet," she said. "We are learning, watching, preparing. The Council wants to see fear in our eyes, but fear is not a human trait. Fear is something we observe, learn from, and then overcome." Ren stepped forward. "The Council thinks they know us. They think we will bend, comply, obey, but they do not understand resilience. They do not understand humanity's obsession with possibility." And then the first ripple appeared in the Council. Reports came from other species, anomalies, ships that should not exist, colonies that seemed to vanish and reappear elsewhere. The Council investigated, but their long-held assumptions about control faltered. They could anticipate actions, but they could not predict imagination. Severin Tal, the High Chancellor, convened the Council. His voice carried a note of unease, rare for the ancient being. "Species 3127 is progressing faster than we expected. Their compliance is deceptive." One of his advisors, a being of flowing light named Vaylin Kra, murmured, "They are silent, patient, and yet, everywhere we look they are preparing." Ilara and Ren observed from Luna, aware that the Council's confidence was slipping. They did not celebrate. They did not taunt. They only worked, methodically, persistently, as humans always did when survival and freedom demanded it. The human networks expanded like constellations, hidden yet connected, forming a lattice of resilience. Every experiment, every minor breakthrough became a chain-breaking lesson. Humanity learned to operate within rules while bending their boundaries, turning restrictions into lessons, surveillance into training, control into motivation. And all the while the Council watched, believing they held the leash, but the leash was already fraying. The first spark of what would become the quiet fleet flickered in the outer moons. Humanity was not ready to strike, not yet, but the galaxy had begun to notice that something extraordinary was stirring among the seemingly obedient humans. They were patient. They were clever. They were unstoppable. And in time the Council would learn that no chain could hold a mind unwilling to be chained. The Council believed humanity was obedient. They had watched for decades, expecting compliance, expecting fear. What they found instead was quiet determination. Humanity had learned patience. They moved like shadows across the moons, hiding their true strength in plain sight. Colonies on Mars, Titan, and Europa disappeared from known coordinates, only to reappear in hidden sectors. Shipyards, disguised as research stations, produced vessels the Council could not comprehend. Every human ship carried minds that adapted faster than any Council protocol. Captain Ilara Vance stood aboard a refitted vessel orbiting Titan. The ship was small, silent, and nearly invisible. Around her, engineers adjusted systems no one outside the human network could detect. They expect fear, Ilara said, voice steady, almost a whisper, but we have patience, and they do not know what we are capable of. Her second in command, Jonas Hale, nodded. We've watched them, studied their assumptions. Every move they anticipate we have already considered 10 steps ahead. The first human jump beyond council limits had been a test. Now the quiet fleet existed in secret, each vessel capable of defying observation. Humanity was not building an army. They were building a presence, a proof that freedom could not be monitored or contained. On Luna Station, Dr. Ren Calder monitored communications across the hidden colonies. Every encrypted transmission, every signal pulse, carried subtle instruction, a lesson in survival, a reminder that humanity would not bow. They're patient, Leora Dane said softly, watching the console. But how long before the council notices? Ren shook his head. Let them think they notice. Humanity moves in silence. We are not reckless, we are deliberate. In the corridors of power within the council, unease spread. Severintal convened a council meeting. His voice, usually steady and commanding, carried a tremor. Species 3127 is different than predicted, he said. Their compliance masks ingenuity. Their restraint hides ambition. We cannot predict them using the methods we know. Valen Kra, the being of light, shivered. They hide in plain sight. They obey, yet prepare. They learn faster than we can monitor. If this continues, other species may begin to question our authority. It was true. Smaller races, long subjugated, were beginning to observe humans in secret. Whispers traveled across the network. The human mind was unpredictable, capable of genius and courage that no other species had displayed. Ilara gathered her closest team aboard the flagship Vigilant. We do not need to fight today, she said. We need to endure. To survive, to learn. The Council expects rebellion in their time. We will give it in ours. Each member nodded. They understood. Humanity had survived impossible odds before. On Earth, against nature, against themselves. Now in the void, survival required patience, strategy, and restraint. Across the galaxy, human colonies coordinated silently. Resource transfers, jump coordinates, experimental technologies, all moved under strict secrecy. Each breakthrough was hidden behind layers of normalcy. The Council's inspectors found nothing unusual, and their confidence grew. Confidence was a dangerous thing. It was during this period of silent defiance that the first unambiguous spark of revolt ignited. Not weapons, not declarations, but a broadcast. A human voice transmitted across the galactic network. It was subtle, almost artistic, but the message was unmistakable. We were told to obey. We chose to learn. We were told to kneel. We chose to stand. Freedom is not given. It is claimed. The message was fragmented, encrypted, and poetic. It reached species across the galaxy. Some barely understood, yet all felt its weight. Even those bound under the Council's rule could sense the tremor of hope. Ilara watched the message spread from the bridge of her ship. It is enough, she whispered. The first seed has fallen. The Council, unaware of the human strategy, continued in confidence. Ships passed over hidden colonies. Inspections reported nothing amiss, and Severintal's advisors reassured him that humanity was contained. Yet the cracks had begun. Patience, observation, learning, and defiance. This was humanity's true weapon. They were not reckless. They were inevitable, and the galaxy would soon realize it. The human voice traveled like a flicker across the galaxy. Small, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable. It reached beyond the Council's control, carrying a message no species could ignore. We were told to obey. We chose to learn. We were told to kneel. We chose to stand. From hidden colonies on Mars to secret stations orbiting distant moons, humans transmitted their defiance, not with weapons, but with thought, skill, and courage. It was an announcement of presence, a proof that the human mind could never be chained. Captain Ilara Vance watched the reactions ripple through the network. Some species whispered among themselves, curious. Others trembled, remembering their own past obedience. Even within the Council, unease began to grow. They broadcast without exposure, Commander Jonas Hale said, leaning over the navigation console. They're teaching the galaxy to see us differently. They're planting doubt. Ilara nodded. Exactly. And doubt spreads faster than any army. We don't need war. We need witness. Across the void, human colonies quietly reorganized. Each message, each technological breakthrough, each subtle act of independence built upon the last. Humanity operated like a single organism, dispersed, patient, and unstoppable. Dr. Ren Calder studied data flows on Luna Station. His fingers danced over consoles as he tracked council fleets, monitoring their assumptions and predicting their reactions. He was silent, focused, confident. They will come, he murmured, and they will expect to find fear. They will find none. Even the council's greatest minds could not predict the humans' next move. Inspectors reported anomalies, fleets that should not exist, colonies that appeared to vanish, technologies that defied their calculations. Each report sowed confusion among the elders. Severintal convened the council. His crystalline form shimmered with tension. Species 3127, he said, is evolving beyond our expectation. Their compliance masks something more dangerous. Their obedience is a lie. Valen Kra, his advisor of flowing light, whispered, They are patient. They do not strike, yet they teach. And every species that witnesses them begins to question us. The human's message was simple yet profound. Knowledge is freedom. Courage is freedom. And freedom is not given. It is claimed. Ilara called her team aboard the flagship Vigilant. The council has watched us for decades, confident in their authority, she said. They believe chains can contain us. They are wrong. Patience has been our ally. Curiosity our shield. Observation our weapon. Her eyes shone with the same fire that had defined humanity from its first steps among the stars. We will not strike blindly. We will act precisely, and when we act it will be unmistakable. Across the galaxy, whispers began to stir. Races who had long bowed to the council's will started watching humans differently. Some sent secret scouts, others began questioning long-held laws of subservience. Humanity's example became a spark, and sparks once lit could not be ignored. Even the quiet fleet, small and invisible, carried the weight of this new understanding. Every vessel, every crew, every human mind understood its place in the larger plan. Not domination, not conquest, but demonstration. They would show the universe that freedom is a right, not a privilege, and that no power could suppress a species willing to claim it. Ilara stood on the bridge, looking out at the dark expanse dotted with stars. This is only the beginning, she said softly. We are the spark in the dark, and one day the darkness will remember our light. Ren Calder, observing the council's fleets from a hidden monitor, nodded. We are teaching them slowly, carefully. They think they control us, but we have already begun to control the lesson. And so the galaxy shifted, imperceptibly at first. Small worlds began murmuring in quiet awe. Fleets hesitated, and minds once bound by tradition began to question. The council, confident in its order, failed to see the fire growing in the shadows. Humanity's defiance was patient. Humanity's strength was invisible. Humanity's spirit, unceasing, unyielding, was unstoppable. And somewhere deep in the darkness the spark glimmered, waiting to ignite a revolution not of weapons, but of courage. The council's confidence was shattered faster than they could imagine. Humanity had waited, watched, and learned. They did not strike recklessly, yet their movements were precise, coordinated, and invisible to every protocol the council had relied upon for millennia. The galaxy itself seemed to shift beneath the council's certainty. Captain Ilara Vance stood on the bridge of the flagship Vigilant, her gaze fixed on the distant silhouette of Orelon Prime. The station glimmered with all the authority and grandeur the council had ever wielded. Yet beneath its perfection it trembled, an empire unaware of the force quietly assembling beyond its sensors. They expect a fleet, Jonas Hale said beside her. They believe we'll challenge them openly, but they have already lost. Ilara's lips curved faintly. We don't need their fleets. We need their disbelief. And humanity's first move was subtle. Small ships, impossible to detect, infiltrated the Council's communications arrays. They disrupted coordination, rewrote code, and transmitted truths the Council had spent centuries suppressing. Across Orlan Prime, alarms sounded, but they were meaningless. The humans had already disappeared from maps cloaked in technology that bent perception. Every Council officer, every inspector, every operative found themselves chasing shadows in empty corridors. Dr. Ren Calder monitored the operation from a hidden orbital lab near Europa. His voice was calm, precise. They think they control information. They cannot control thought. And thought is what we command. Even Sevrental, the High Chancellor, struggled to maintain composure. His crystalline form flickered, cracks of uncertainty running through him. "Species 3127, he murmured, almost to himself. They are everywhere and nowhere. Their strategy is not war, it is something else. Ilara gave the order. The human fleet executed synchronized maneuvers appearing at multiple points around Orlan Prime. Not as an army, but as proof, a demonstration of capability and inevitability. The Council's sensors, trained to detect conventional threats, could not comprehend the fleet's presence, and then the first broadcast reached every chamber of Orlan Prime. "You tried to chain us. You taught us how to break chains. Humanity will not kneel. Your control is an illusion." The message was simple, yet it carried the weight of centuries of ingenuity and courage. It resonated not as a threat but as truth, irrefutable and undeniable. Panic spread among the Council. Inspectors reported anomalies they could not explain. Entire fleets vanished from sight, only to reappear where no human ship should have been. Colonies that had existed under surveillance seemed to evaporate from known coordinates. Every prediction the Council had relied upon crumbled. Valen Kra, the being of flowing light, trembled. "They are beyond our calculations. Every assumption we made has been invalidated." Sevrental's voice, once resonant and commanding, now carried hesitation. "They are free. They are invincible in a way we cannot touch." The quiet fleet did not attack. They had no desire to conquer. Humanity's goal was not domination but awakening, demonstrating that no empire could hold a species that refused to be chained. And in that moment, the mightiest station in the galaxy, Orlan Prime, felt small. Its towers, radiant and proud, now seemed fragile against the intelligence and resolve of humanity. Ilara looked out from the bridge. "They do not understand," she said quietly. "This is not about conquest. It is about possibility. And the moment a species believes in possibility, nothing can stop it." Ren Calder smiled at the readings. "They cannot undo what we have shown. The galaxy has already seen the truth. Chains do not bind ideas." Sevrental, for the first time in millennia, felt fear. Not of death, not of defeat, but of understanding. The species he had deemed controllable had taught him a lesson centuries too late. Intelligence, courage, and the will to be free could not be chained. And so Orlan Prime, the heart of the Galaxy Council, fell into silence. Not from weapons, not from invasion, but from the undeniable, quiet, unstoppable force of a species that refused to bend. The galaxy watched, and the spark that had begun as whispers across hidden colonies now became a beacon. Humanity had not declared war. Humanity had not sought glory. Humanity had merely reminded the universe of a simple truth. Freedom, once claimed, cannot be stolen. And in that silence, the stars themselves seemed to bow, just slightly, to the persistence, the courage, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. Silence spread across Orlan Prime, not the silence of peace, but the silence of realization. The Council had spent millennia believing themselves untouchable, their authority absolute. Now they faced a truth they could not deny. Humanity had shattered their assumptions. Captain Ilara Vance stood aboard the Vigilant, watching the Council's fleets hesitate, frozen by confusion and awe. Humanity's strength had never been in weapons, nor in size, nor in numbers. It had always been in courage, ingenuity, and an unyielding refusal to kneel. "They do not understand us," said Commander Jonas Hale quietly. "They see our actions, but they cannot comprehend the will behind them." Alara nodded. Let them try. Understanding comes in its own time. We do not force it. We demonstrate it. Across the galaxy, human colonies continued their silent expansion, sharing knowledge in ways the Council could not control. Every new invention, every breakthrough, every subtle maneuver was a lesson in possibility. Humanity was no longer bound by oversight. They were bound only by imagination and vision. Dr. Ren Calder observed the Council's reaction from a hidden station near Titan. They are beginning to see, he said softly. Not fully, but the seed is planted. One day they will understand what it means to be free. In the Council's central chamber, Sevrental faced his advisors. His crystalline form shimmered with an unfamiliar hesitation. They are not aggressive, he admitted, voice resonant yet trembling. They have power, yes, but their greatest weapon is not destruction. It is an understanding. They teach without forcing. They act without violence, and they inspire without command. How do we fight that? Valen Kra, his flowing light advisor, answered in a low murmur. Perhaps, Chancellor, we cannot. Perhaps we can only watch and learn. Alara's fleet, hidden in the shadows of known star systems, did not intervene. They had already demonstrated what humanity could achieve. The Council now faced a new reality. Submission was no longer a choice for humanity, but coexistence would be. A message transmitted across the Council's own network reached every species present in Orlon Prime. We are humans. We do not seek to rule. We do not seek war. We seek possibility. We seek understanding, and we will not kneel. The broadcast was not a threat. It was a mirror. The Council saw themselves reflected in it, and the reflection was undeniable. They had assumed dominion over a species that could never be dominated. Across countless worlds, smaller species whispered in astonishment. Some had long lived in servitude. Some had doubted their own potential, and now, watching humanity, they glimpsed the power of thought unbound. Ilara looked out at the stars, each one a potential colony, a potential mind, a potential witness. We do not conquer, she said. We reveal. We demonstrate. We inspire. And the universe slowly begins to remember what courage looks like. Ren Calder's console blinked with reports from hidden colonies. Resource allocation optimized beyond expectation, communications networks expanding unseen, technology advancing silently but rapidly. Humanity's presence was subtle, pervasive, unstoppable. They will not forget this, Leora Dane said softly. They will remember the species that refused to bow. Alara turned, her expression calm, resolute. They will, and it will change them. Not today, not tomorrow, but inevitably. The Council, for the first time in history, hesitated. Entire fleets froze in orbit. High-ranking delegates questioned their strategies. Inspectors admitted confusion. For centuries, the Council had believed that logic, force, and law could dominate life itself. Humanity had proven otherwise. The quiet fleet remained in the shadows. They did not celebrate. They did not gloat. They only moved with the same quiet purpose that had brought them this far. Humanity did not seek vengeance, nor glory, nor dominion. They sought only the truth, that a species capable of courage and imagination could never be chained. And somewhere in the void, among the distant stars, the galaxy began to awaken to a new reality. Freedom, patience, and understanding were forces more powerful than fear, more enduring than chains, and more profound than any empire could ever control. Alara smiled faintly. The Council will kneel, she whispered. Not because we demand it, but because they finally understand who we are. The dawn of understanding had begun. And with it, humanity's legacy would illuminate the galaxy forever. The stars had witnessed it all. The rise and fall of empires, the birth of civilizations, and the endless march of time. But none had ever seen a spark like humanity. Captain Alara Vance stood aboard the Vigilant, gazing at the vast council headquarters of Orlon Prime. What once had been a symbol of absolute power now shimmered with uncertainty. The council had survived for eons, yet they trembled before a species they could neither predict nor control. They still do not understand fully, Jonas Hale said quietly, standing beside her. They think we bend when we comply. They think silence is surrender. Alara's blue eyes reflected the glow of distant stars. Silence is preparation. Compliance is strategy. But humanity cannot be caged. And now they finally see it. Across Orlan Prime, the Council convened in crisis. Reports of hidden fleets, inaccessible colonies, and technologies that defied oversight poured in from every corner. Severin Tal, the High Chancellor, stood at the center, his crystalline form flickering. The confidence he had carried for millennia was gone, replaced by a rare and unsteady recognition. The humans were beyond his control. They do not seek war. Valen Kra murmured, her flowing light form trembling. They do not attack, yet they have undone everything we have built. Severin Tal's voice was quiet, almost reverent. They are something we cannot contain. We thought ourselves eternal. We were wrong. The quiet fleet, invisible yet omnipresent, moved like a tide in the shadows of known space. Human vessels did not strike with weapons. They struck with proof. Proof that a species unbroken by fear could outthink, outlast, and outshine any empire. On distant worlds, smaller civilizations whispered of the humans. They had observed, learned, and finally understood the essence of courage. Not aggression, not conquest, but the refusal to surrender one's spirit. Humanity's defiance was a mirror, reflecting the truth that even the most ancient powers could not command intelligence, creativity, or the will to be free. Dr. Ren Calder, monitoring transmissions from Europa, leaned back, a faint smile on his face. They see it now, he said softly. The Council has realized what humanity is. And the galaxy? The galaxy will never be the same. Ilara spoke to her crew. We are not conquerors. We are a reminder, a demonstration. We have not destroyed the Council. We have enlightened it. And in that enlightenment, the universe will see that no chain can hold a mind unwilling to be chained. Every fleet, every colony, every human mind acted with precision. There was no chaos, only purpose. The galaxy had witnessed a species take the impossible, the forbidden, and turn it into inevitability. Humanity had not bent, had not broken, and had not feared. And now the Council, once supreme and unchallenged, bowed not in submission to weapons or force, but in recognition of a force they could not defeat. Humanity's spirit. Severin Tal finally addressed the humans. His voice, usually commanding, now carried respect and awe. Species 3127, you have taught us a lesson we did not expect. Your strength is not in your ships, your fleets, or your technologies. Your strength is in your will. Ilara stepped forward. And that will, she said, her voice steady and calm, cannot be chained. Humanity seeks only to grow, to explore, to imagine. We will share knowledge, forge alliances, and inspire. But we will never kneel, and now, you understand why. Across the galaxy, the echoes of that understanding spread. Other species who had lived in quiet oppression began to whisper of possibility. Humanity had ignited hope not through domination, but through example. Freedom, courage, and determination became forces more powerful than armies, more enduring than empires, and more profound than any law. The Council, humbled and enlightened, began to negotiate not as rulers but as equals. Humanity did not claim vengeance. Humanity did not claim dominion. Humanity claimed respect, and in doing so reshaped the galaxy. Ilara gazed at the stars. Each one was a reminder of human persistence, of the spark that had refused to die in the face of chains. Humanity had walked into the halls of the gods, and they had walked out not bound but ascendant. Jonas Hale smiled beside her. The galaxy has changed. Ilara's eyes shone. Yes, and so have we. And in that moment, humanity's legacy became clear. The species that refused to kneel, that defied expectation, that turned chains into lessons, had illuminated the universe with the most powerful force of all, the indomitable spirit of being human. The stars themselves seemed to watch, not as masters, but as witnesses. Humanity was no longer small, fragile, or constrained. Humanity had become unstoppable, and the galaxy would never forget it.